Today, I want to just touch on the difference between being a servant and falling into parasitic systems within this multidimensional construct and being of service. There's a difference when it comes to giving from a place of wholeness and also giving from a place of depletion. Now, we must understand when we are giving to systems, whether that's large systems within this collective network or within our own subjective experiences that end up becoming parasitic and draining, and understanding which ways of being and what the embodiment of this awareness looks like. And that awareness is 528 Hertz. That awareness is unconditional love to all beings that navigate this system in a way where we trust the intelligence that's not only moving through us, but every other fractal expression of infinite potential. Whether a being in this system is dormant to the infinite potential that lies within them doesn't negate the fact of what they actually are. I'm going to get some advice message for this as well, but the urge to constantly save others reveals something far deeper within us, and that is a lingering disbelief in either our own power and creative potential in this realm, our ability to trust life, to trust growth, and trust intelligence moving through every single being as much as it also moves through us. Some of us believe in the system through compartmentalization that we are more connected to source than others, or that source only helps us and not every other human being on this planet, when in reality we all emerge from the same source. We are all children of wisdom, learning to return to that wisdom once again. You moving through life with a profound sense of self-trust and modeling that example, that may be a different behavior that was modeled to you, and also a behavior that requires a level of discipline and accountability. Sometimes that savior complex is not actually believing that others are weak, but it's doubting that this divine intelligence knows how to move us through every challenge within our life experience. Whatever a soul is experiencing at this stage of their evolution journey that you may be witnessing unfold is always in benefit for the soul's evolution. I'm hearing don't come in too quickly with the element of I'm going to save somebody, or I'm going to fix them or fix their situation or disrupt what's happening in their own life experience, because we may just be disrupting lessons that may be unfolding within that soul's journey. And so sometimes we assume that those around us are incapable of moving through their own initiations. And so we rush in and kind of rob, okay, I almost want to say that, we rob another individual of being able to discover the strength that lies within them. When did you discover your own strength? You discovered your own strength when you had no other option but were backed up against a wall. Sometimes we don't know how strong we are when we're left with no other option. We can rob those around us of being able to come into that remembering, to actually come into that awakening and experience the very lessons that they've incarnated to learn by entangling so much with what's happening within their life experience. And so we are all fractals of infinite potential. We are equal expressions of source, of the same source, and we are all going through our subjective life journey and experience into discovering that. Your path of awakening may look completely different to another soul's path of awakening. And I'll also tell you this, sometimes the most advanced lessons, okay, the more advanced and mature souls, they agree to take on more in their life experience because they've culminated this foundation of learning in order, learning of knowledge, of wisdom that they have accumulated in the etheric realms that translates into their life experience. We do not take on anything that we are not that we are incapable of moving beyond, of transcending, of growing through. We grow through the very things that we move through. And that's my message. There's something around understanding the strength, the knowledge, and the wisdom in which you've cultivated is inseparable from your life experiences. And there is so much beauty and a cosmos within what appears to be chaos that an individual is experiencing that is incredibly profound for the etheric growth that's happening, that then translates into the physical manifestation of how somebody comes into that awakening through those initiations, that we can pull someone away from only for them to resort back to. That's what it is. That's what I'm seeing. It's like someone on their journey, someone coming and interrupting it, but it's like binary star. That was the very lesson that was necessary. My whole point is sometimes when we try to save someone from the experience they're currently moving through in life, it can also interrupt their process of learning, because it's always in benefit for the soul's evolution, no matter how chaotic it may seem, that they can extract from the experience. There's some type of wisdom still hidden in the lesson that can only be uncovered through their subjective lens. It's designed specifically for the soul's experience, and there's so much beauty in that, is my whole message. Okay, there's something around that, because we are going to see collective timelines and groups and individuals within this construct that will be cycling through certain programmed fears and responses just to get so acquainted with ways of being that are not conducive for their life's journey, that leads them directly into points of divergence where they get to experience their own liberation from the very systems that they've been able to transcend. And there is sweetness in that reward. There is beauty in the other side of discomfort, for it allows us to experience that liberation and the beauty of discovering our ability as sovereign beings to move through and grow through the things that we go through. To understand that on the other side of those situations or circumstances, we have come out stronger, more refined, and not defined by that moment in time. We have the privilege of being able to transcend our very life experience. And sometimes those evolved enough, can transcend them while being inside of them. To find peace amidst the chaos is the beauty of the third dimension. And peace doesn't come after a situation. Peace emerges from utilizing the free will of perception. We find peace through how we choose to perceive a situation. We don't have to wait for a moment to happen before we choose to embody peace, before we choose to embody harmony, before we choose to embody source. We do not have to create an identity around our limitless nature based upon what we may be currently experiencing through space and time, because in truth, there is an octave within us that's untouched by time, that is unaffected by the shifts that occur throughout our space-time travels. Everything is always in perfect design. And yet some of us doubt that. It's amazing. Isn't it? It's amazing. Some of us doubt that still. Everything is an act of love or a call for love. Some of us don't yet quite understand what it is to look at a being experiencing profound cycles of suffering and accept that suffering as our own. And say, hey, witnessing you go through profound cycles of suffering makes me feel uncomfortable. And so I'm going to insert myself into your experience because I don't like how it makes me feel. When really we're picking up on the suffering that's happening in the field, and we are then creating an identity around it. It's the unmet needs of ourself. That comes from a level of hierarchy from the ego compared to invitations and giving from a place of wholeness. And saying, hey, I understand that you're experiencing profound suffering right now. Can I offer you an alternative perspective? Can I offer you assistance or guidance? There is always a difference between unsolicited advice. Unsolicited advice tells us more about the needs of the giver than the receiver, always. I want to be really, really clear when it comes to these two different timelines. One is acting from fear, and one is acting from a place of wholeness, of co-creation with the individual. The fear one can be sometimes we want to rescue someone from their lessons because it comes with a level of discomfort, sometimes from witnessing their pain and being able to observe an individual moving through these cycles of suffering. And so we want to insert ourselves into their life experience. True co-creation actually looks like not removing the lesson that the individual's moving through, but supporting the soul as they move through it themselves. Right? That's what co-creation looks like. One is the ego that interrupts the journey to avoid feeling that discomfort. And the other is the soul perspective that actually holds this hand nearby, where it beckons the individual or the soul to discover the wisdom hidden within the lesson or the experience. You can think about it as the phoenix rising from the ashes moment, something that so many of us experience when it comes to our most profound revelations while navigating space-time, come from not being carried out of the fire before the transformation occurs, right? It's like trying to save the phoenix from experiencing itself as the ashes, but without experiencing itself as the ashes, how can it rise to the phoenix, right? So when we insert ourselves into somebody's life story or the themes that the soul is currently moving through, it's like we literally try to carry them out of the fire before that transformation can even take place or occur, because we want to relieve them from their discomfort. But then it's like that theme continues to play out because it's wounds that are seeking resolution, right? It's karma that you cannot outrun. The karma must be actually learned. The lessons must be learned so that they can be redirected. The difference between co-creation is honoring and supporting the soul as they're moving through those lessons and they're moving through those themes, and witnessing them unveil the wisdom beneath that life experience. And there is nothing more fulfilling than discernment. There is nothing more fulfilling than witnessing a soul uncover the revelations, no matter if it's not at that moment in time, but at some point during their space-time journey, they can look back at it and see that as, oh my gosh, I'm understanding now this, and then more change happens, and they're seated at a higher level of resolution and a higher level of resolution, and they see it from a deeper and deeper aspect the deeper that they meet themselves. There is so much beauty in that cyclical unfolding where we come back to the same situation, and it's not that the situation has ever changed, but it's that we've evolved our perspective as we evolve as beings. It's such an intelligently self-designed system, and I just want to say that there's a difference between co-creating and witnessing instead of just intervening, right? So if anyone's experiencing this, which I trust we all will at some point in our life experience, whether this is with family, with friends, co-workers, it's about being able to support the soul as they move through the lessons themselves, right? Saying, hey, I unconditionally, I'm here for you, I unconditionally accept you. But wisdom also allows us to understand and discern how close we get to the experience. Right, let's see. We have eclipse, and then we also have geocentric model and proton. Yeah. Eclipse is something that was obstructing our light, so something that we couldn't see, a belief system that perhaps just creates this distortion in how the soul sees themselves as they navigate these situations at that point in time, because they're seeing this situation through the lens of the wound itself. And those are wounds seeking resolution, right? So underneath the experience is wisdom that's waiting to be discovered, and that wisdom is only able to be extracted through the knowledge that we derive from the experience itself. There is so much that happens through experiential participation that we can accumulate along our life journey that we can reflect back on and become wiser because of, right? Now, geocentric model is the ego. So let me go ahead and read this. And then you have proton, which is a positive electrical charge that somebody discovers at the center core of their being, at the center core of their wounds. Right, this talks about the wounded ego. Does everything rotate around the earth? The portal is to work on fears and self-love. Let down your guard. It calls for a change in perspective. There is so much beauty in being able to witness a soul shift their perspective and explore their inner self, investigate their fear or the pain lying deep within, because it shows that there's much more hiding beneath it. Sometimes souls and the dormant human, when I say dormant, I just mean dormant from the fact that it cannot see its own full potential clearly, and sometimes we are limited to what we believe are our options at some points in our journey. There is beauty in that self-discovery. There is beauty in seeing yourself then more than your circumstances. So this says recognizing that sometimes taking things personally is effectively accepting some fear or insecurity that prevents an open wound being seen clearly or with a broad mind. This is about the beauty in moving past this myopic, limited filter perception and into more expansive, broader, universal truths in how we relate to our own life experiences. Yeah. Nobody does anything to you personally. Everyone is immersed in a battle within their own demons. This card is related to ego, insecurities, and projection onto others. When we take something personally, it does not say anything about the other person. It does say a lot about ourselves. Did that hurt? It should not. So that's your message. It shouldn't hurt to witness an individual moving through times of discomfort in their own journey, to witness them burning within their own fire that will inevitably lead towards their transformation, because that's when they're discovering their power. Right when we're on the verge of a breakthrough, our fears become the loudest. Right when we're on the verge of a breakthrough, we experience the most level of resistance that leads to the seed germinating in that place of darkness. We are met with the unmet needs of our inner child wounds that we are on the edge of discovering. Within us exists the very source to nourish those unmet needs, and we do not need to outsource our sense of strength. Going into the fire and rescuing an individual before the transformation occurs is like saying, okay, I'm going to project the discomfort that I'm feeling from you and witnessing you go through that and insert myself into your life experience to save you from the fire because it makes me feel uncomfortable. There's something positive within that experience inside of the fire. Okay, there's something positive within that experience because you have proton. It's like saving the individual from the very experience that they signed up from a higher level, we zoom out, to move through. The fundamental of a nucleus, going from the small to the large with total positivity, it talks about a positive electrical charge, forms of a fundamental part of all atoms. Within the experience, within the wounds of the ego, there is a positive electrical charge. There is so much soul growth within the amidst the chaos. There is a secret order to what appears to be disorderly. We have 1515 on the clock, which is a card about transformation. It also is about creativity. It's unlocking our creative potential. I'm going to save you from the very lessons that you signed up to experience because it makes me feel uncomfortable to witness you go through that, because I don't believe that you can move through and grow through the things that you're going through right now. That's what it sounds like. Yeah. High Priestess and Five of Pentacles. I don't believe that you can access the High Priestess octave. High Priestess and Five of Pentacles is saying, okay, yes, you may be experiencing profound suffering, but you are also the key, and the High Priestess understands that with discernment, to move freely between realms. And on the other side of that door is a huge doorway into infinite potential. It's like the edge of discovery. That's what this feels like. You may be, I mean, this is coming up for a reason right now. You may be witnessing many in your life experience on the edge of discovering their full potential. Sometimes that means collapsing our old worldview. Sometimes that means that we are having to change, and that can be scary, or we are waking up inside of the very patterns that have been reinforced generationally. And it can be traumatic sometimes to have the human condition lift in such a confronting way, because there's so much that accumulates within our life experience that we then have to wake up and consciously redirect and guide. This is coming up for a reason. We will be witnessing within this system many beings awakening, and it can be traumatic to have to take accountability for the reinforced unconscious actions that we have been taking or inaction, or where our own fear has paralyzed us, and we wake up inside of reality that we don't necessarily feel is as conducive for our soul's intentions. And so upon this awakening, there is a disruption of certain belief systems that we must evolve beyond. And there's something around you're going to be witnessing. The reason this is coming up is that there's something around beings that have had certain belief systems that have distorted the way that they see themselves or their own creative potential, understanding their own unmet needs, and then waking up to the source within. That is the positive fundamental part of all atoms. It's like going into the fire and playing firefighter, trying to save a being before their transformation can even occur. And saying, hey, you're not strong enough to get through this, so you can outsource your sense of strength, and I'll be your source of strength. Hey, you're not knowledgeable to get through this, so you can outsource your sense of knowledge. instead of waking up to the divine knowledge that already exists within you. There is something about, there's far more power in standing in the middle of your own fire, allowing yourself to burn and rise, and leading by example of what that transformation looks like. Because as you model that example of being able to transcend your own life experience while in the midst of the chaos and choosing to see the cosmos within it, and mirroring free will of perception, choosing to anchor in peace and harmony into your current conditions and stop outsourcing or waiting for an external moment to happen before you choose to feel peace, that unconsciously gives others permission to feel the same. That unconsciously mirrors to others and gives them permission to have free will over their perception and to see the beauty in the burning of old belief systems, old worldviews, old conditioning. And while that dissolves, they rise into a more centered version of themselves because you've mirrored what that looks like within your own transformation. There is a difference when it comes to holding space and co-creating with a soul and saying, okay, I am going to honor your own journey and the choices that you make and allow you to discover the wisdom beneath your own life experience. I trust your ability to navigate that, just like I trust myself. There is far more power in modeling that example. I'm seeing that, like, you're leading by example right now. We do not create followers in the system. We awaken leaders into being able to lead themselves and lead by example. And that is far more empowering. Becoming your own source to your unmet needs. That unconditional love is a state of awareness. There are so many inversions of truth in this matrix, in this system, that look like unconditional love being affection or attachment. When ultimately it's awareness. That is liberating through all life experiences. Because while you're inside the fire, if you can still retain electrical communication to your source within, we model it like it's external, but really it's internal. You understand there's a higher purpose to it. And you find liberation while inside of the experience. Not just for collective timelines, but also our own subjective journeys too. That's what 528 Hertz is. So I'm going to love and leave you right there. There is someone that needed to hear that message. I trust it. There is a lot in which we will continue to be witnessing, maybe within your own familial environments, maybe within those around you in the world. We're going to be seeing this play out. And so it's really important to model that example, what it looks like. Yeah. So I'm going to leave you right there. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, do consider subscribing. We'd love to have you around. Personal reading details are also down below. Also check out Auto Spirit if you're looking for some high quality AAE grade jewelry. I have 2 discount codes for this down below. And yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, how do you feel like this resonated with your own life story? What do you feel like you may be picking up on in the field of those around you with things that the human may be confronting within themselves, things that you may be witnessing when it comes to holding space, being able to hold space for an individual as they learn to hold space for themselves. We can only unlock our healer archetype when we first learn to hold space for ourselves inside of the fire. That's the very thing that allows us to hold space for others, as they also learn to hold space for themselves as they move through the fire. And that makes the path and journey easier, because you're able to look around and see, oh, there are those who actually came out on the other side and they're stronger because of it. So I'm hearing that strength is forged from the inside out, not the outside, and then recognizing it within. External networks lead us back to ourselves always. We see it mirrored in the external world only to remind us of our own strength. The inversion is that we don't need to discover that strength, because we have codependent dynamics for us to lean on, to rely on. Then those exchanges become parasitic. That's the difference. Becoming your own source versus outsourcing. Not finding security in yourself and feeling like we need others to accept us in order for us to feel secure. See, when we unconditionally accept and love an individual, no matter if they're in the fire, no matter if they're in the phoenix era, no matter if they're experiencing themselves as the ashes, in the aftermath of the experience, if we can accept them and love them at every stage of their evolution, it also gives them unconscious permission to do the same and love themselves at every stage of their evolution. That only happens when we can unconditionally accept and love them. So, yes, until next time, bye.